The New York Giants lose to the Miami Dolphins 20-9. What went wrong? What went right? Well, not too much went right, but a lot went wrong. And here to help me break it all down is David Turner, former NFL scout. He joins me next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. Patricia Traina here with you, and it's Monday. It's December 6th, 2021. We are coming to you, as always, with our review of the Giants' previous game. And this one, folks, yes, another loss. This was a 20-9 loss to the Miami Dolphins. And here to help me break it down, as always, is good friend David Turner, former NFL scout, former NFL personnel guy, and a guy who, by the way, was right about Matt Peart based on what Rob Sale had to say last week about Matt Peart not being as physical. I know, David, you've used the term cream puff. I know a lot of people aren't crazy about it, but Rob Sale pretty much said, hey, this kid's not physical enough. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. We got to talk about this game here because we're short on time. 20-9, David. I mean, no Daniel Jones. Mike Glennon was in there. The focus of the offense, I think, had to be Saquon Barkley. It had to be Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay went and got hurt again. I think this time it was his ribs. He took a cheap shot, or I thought was a cheap shot. But Saquon Barkley, let's start there. I look at Saquon Barkley. I see a guy who's wearing number 26. I see a guy who has Barkley across his back there, but I don't see Saquon Barkley. Are you seeing Saquon Barkley, or what's going on with this guy?
Well, I mean, there's a couple runs in there where he looked like himself, There's a couple of runs that definitely where he looked like himself, but end of the day, they only handed the ball off to him 11 times. They targeted him, or he caught, 9 more balls for only 6 yards or whatever it was?
It was 6 catches, 19 yards.
Oh, there you go.
Most of them in garbage time, by the way. But
right, and they targeted him 9 times. That's right. So again, you're not running the damn ball, and that one drive that got him down close to, was it inside the 19 or 20? They got there with him breaking off some runs, right? It was like, okay, you run. Then you get into the red zone and you stop running the ball and you throw the dumb ball. And it's just like, we saw this under Garrett. We're seeing it under Kitchen. It's you if you're going to win with the Giants right now, is play good defense, run the football, play field position game, and then get out of it with some scores and win the football game. But they're not running the ball. I mean, all day today, they only ran 17 times. And this wasn't like, it was close up until the fourth quarter. At some point, Dolphins started to pull away in the fourth quarter, but the rest of the time, it wasn't like the Giant or the Dolphins jumped up 20-0 or something. The Giants chopped away, right? I mean, they were in the ball game for quite a while. And, they stopped running the football, and, Glennon threw 44 times. And, well, I'm sure we'll get into all that, but it's just like I told you before, I'm not a Freddie Kitchens fan. And I know everybody's like, oh, it's not fair to judge Freddie. It is. While Freddie did do a couple things today that I did like, which was some vertical stretch stuff. I liked it. Glennon missed a lot of the throws. Okay. I did like a couple of the play calls, probably about half dozen of them. Were stuff I was like, okay, I like that, Freddie. Okay, that was a good call, Freddie. Without staying committed to the run, though, when you have this kind of situation, backup quarterback in, Galladay gets hurt, you don't have, all your accoutrements of wide receivers and everybody, right? And then, you get the 2 tight ends back, and they're back in the game. And I want to say they only targeted Rudolph once or twice. So it was just like, what are you doing? 12 personnel, run the football. keep the defense on their heels. They don't know if you're going to run or pass because you got 12 in there or 22 personnel, even put Penny in to block. I don't think I saw Penny in the game at all today.
Yeah.
So, it's just stuff like that where I get real frustrated because everybody knows football's the same damn game. You have to run the football to win. And if you look at a lot of the games that were won today, they ran the damn football. Their running backs had really good games. And this time of the year, running backs need to be involved heavily to win games.
And the Giants only ran the ball in the first half. They ran the ball 8 times. So they finished with 17 runs. So that meant in the second half, they only ran it 9 times. Now, admittedly, the run blocking by the offensive line, it was like a grab bag. You didn't know what you were going to get from them from play to play. But I think you're absolutely right, and coming into this game, if, 2 of my keys included getting the ball in Barkley's hands and also, getting Golladay involved. Now, when Golladay went out, and again, the Giants didn't have Tony, they didn't have a Shepard this week. They did have Rudolph back. As you mentioned, they had Evan Ingram. But even when they put the ball in Barkley's hands, he had a couple of bad drops and he continues to pitter patter behind that offensive line. It's almost like he's reluctant to hit the hole and push with his shoulder. He's looking for that escape patch all the time, which brought up questions to him about, how are you feeling? You're, 100%, what's going on? And Barkley just finally said, I guess I'm in a slump. I mean, do you think he's in a slump or is this just, a combination of things?
I don't think he trusts his blocking, but he doesn't want to say, I don't trust my blocking. If a running back's not hitting a hole hard, it's because he's afraid he's going to get smacked when he gets there. So he's looking for daylight. He doesn't want to go in front of a microphone and put on blast his offensive line coach, and all the tight ends and everybody. But if you look at it, there's no holes. Like you talk about, he doesn't want to put his shoulder down, just run into the back of Will Hernandez, who's getting pushed into the backfield. I wouldn't want to run into a 330-pound man either, And then people want to say, well, then he should just, push the pocket. Well, Eckler doesn't do that. Harris doesn't do that. A lot of the running backs in the league right now aren't doing that. So, you're judging them by an unfair, marker right now. I don't think the offensive line's blocking well. And again, I'm a guy who's committed to playing run, if I ever had, by the grace of God, ever became a GM, my coach, whoever I hired, his offensive coordinator would be committed to the run. And if you're not committed to the run, you're not going to be my coach or offensive coordinator. That's just the way it goes. And if that means you put in another tackle or another offensive lineman, go jumbo, or you run, 12 or even 13 personnel, I'm fine with that. Let's go. But you got to wear the defense down and you got to get after it. And even out here, Cliff Kingsbury said, his air raid offense when he was at Texas Tech, right, was all about 10 personnel and, spreading the offense. And he's had to use and learn how to use 2 tight ends in the NFL, because using 2 tight ends in the middle of the field is a real advantage in the NFL because of the hash marks being so narrow, where in college, the hash marks are so far spread out. It's a different thing. Now, again, Cliff Kingsbury, he's got the best team in the NFC, and he says he's learning and he's figuring this out. You got coaches like Jason Garrett and now Freddie Kitchens who've been in the NFL for quite some time, and they're play callers. You would think they could figure it out, but they're not. And that's a problem.
Let's stay with that offensive line for a second, because they finally pulled Matt Skura out and they put in Ben Bredesen at left guard. But to me, I watched that interior of that offensive line. I don't think I've seen Will Hernandez pick up a stunt yet. Billy Price is okay once he snaps, when he snaps the ball, but after he snaps the ball, it's like, you don't know what you're going to get. And then, like I said, on the left side, they've had problems. So that interior, they've struggled. And I'm just not sure. Is it individually they're struggling? Is it because one guy's breaking down, the other guys are being dragged down with them? What are you seeing from the interior of that line?
Well, taking it player by player, Will Hernandez, you want to talk about being in a funk. That guy's in a funk. Today, that one kick out block where all he had to do was hit Phillips, and Phillips was lined up perfect for him. He floated way too far outside. His target point was way far outside. And it's like, man, just stay on the inside of that player. And Glennon doesn't get sacked on that play, because Barkley, I think it was Barkley, it might have been Booker. I can't remember exactly. Had the outside. So if the player floated, if Phillips floated upfield, the running back was going to be there to chip him back into you. Like that was a total blown assignment by Will. And I think Will playing on the right side is an absolute mistake. I think I said it to you in preseason, like flipping Will to the right side is a mistake because his entire high school and college career was on the left side. His entire career. And you knew when you drafted him, he was a one-hole guy. He was going to be the left guard. And when you're flipping him around now, it ain't going to work. And we're seeing it ain't going to work. He's had a real hard time anchoring. Folks are coming on the inside post leg at him all the time because he's not used to being a firm left leg post guy where you put that foot in the ground and nobody can move it. He's very used to putting that right leg in the ground and, making that his post leg, as I call it, and not being able to move him that way. When you flip it, it's hard. And people are like, well, he's a professional athlete. You should be able to do it. No, that's not the way this works. Rare athletes at certain positions just can do that position. Okay. So for him, it's very hard for him to learn a different position. And I don't understand why when who was the guard? Lemieux, when he wasn't there, why they didn't just flip him back to left and try to work out the right side on its own with the different guards. Like that doesn't make any sense to me at all. Billy Price, I want to say something I can't because it's your show, but half the time his head's up somewhere and he's not, and it's like he's a blind man trying to feel his way through a phone booth. Okay. So that's the best I could do. I hope you don't have to edit that.
I know what you were trying to say, by the way.
It's the best I could do. I hope you didn't have to edit that. But he really struggles interiorly. Like you said, he has a good snap, but then who he's supposed to help, where he's supposed to go, which way he's supposed to shade. I mean, it's just guesswork for him. And I'm just like baffled. I'm really baffled. But now you know why the Bengals didn't pick up his 5th-year option and why they weren't going to pay him. Because they were just like, you know what? He's not the guy we thought he was going to be. So, we'll trade him and get something out of him. And thanks, Giants, for that, So, again, I don't understand those interior as you don't. I still think the biggest problem they have, though, is the tackles. Parrott is useless, and I've said it for months. And then Soldiers is a serviceable backup, but now they're playing and he's starting and he's, always in. And Thomas is a good player when he's healthy. I mean, that's the one shining thing, to be honest with you. Like, you got a left tackle. There's 32 NFL teams, and I guarantee you there's 10 or 12 or 13 of them that wish they had Thomas as their left tackle, if not more. He's a pretty good player, and I like the way he looks out there. It's just the rest of the unit, and they're not moving in unison. They seem to be this whole dang team seems to not know what the hell is going on. We'll get into more and more by position. But this offensive line, picking up stunts, knowing what's coming, they just don't seem to know what's going on.
All right, Giant fans, we have more coming up on today's Locked On Giants podcast. But first, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. DirecTV Stream brings you live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part is there's no annual contract, and there's also no need for 50 million remote controls or different devices. So stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. Learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. So they signed Jake Fromm.
But can Fromm call his own plays?
I don't know. I would guess at this point, no. But anyway, they signed him from. It would be nice, right? Anything would be better than what we're seeing.
As long as Fromm can call his own plays, it'll be better.
Yeah, because we know you're not a kitchen
And understand, people, he just got to the team, so I'm fine with him calling his own.
Because you're not a Kitchens fan. But let's talk about this because I don't know that he's going to be allowed to call his own plays. So that said, he's been here, or he got here on Wednesday, had 3 days to really, 3 practice worth. Saturday, he worked on the playbook. At this point, the quarterback isn't going to know the whole playbook. He's going to have to learn on the fly. So realistically speaking, if Fromm does have to play next week, if Glennon can't go, and if Jones is out, what do you think we might be able to expect from Fromm as far as, is he going to be a game manager? Do you think he can, run,
He's gonna hold on
run
to the
certain
seat of his
plays?
pants and play. That's all he's gonna do. Like it honestly, it's gonna be raw football. It'll be raw football. When you're in this, I've been in this situation at the Raiders where we had injuries and we didn't know what we were going to get. And, you just roll the football out there and say, okay, son, let's see what you got. You don't know at this point. You really don't. And, he's there. He can't absorb. If you're lucky to have 25% of the plays in, okay, you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
What they run in Buffalo, I would not say is extremely familiar to what they're running in New York. It's not the same tree of of offense. They're different offenses. Like if he would have come from Carolina or somewhere in a tree that's similar kind of offense, then I would have been like, oh, he's further ahead. He kind of probably knows terminology, knows some of the plays are just called different. But what Buffalo runs and what New York's trying to run, I don't see in the same tree. So that's going to be a learning curve for him.
So what's the biggest difference though?
Buffalo to me is more vertical stretch with Diggs and Sanders and they allow their quarterback. Again, New York likes to call a lot of quarterback runs, but for Josh Allen, he'll just use his legs to get out of problems. And that's what I like about Fromm in this system for the Giants is that he actually has scramble ability more than Glennon. That when it breaks down, he'll be able to run and he keeps his eyes downfield. He's got a pretty good compact release. He's not as long and elongated as Glennon is. So I think throwing on the run, rolling, moving the pocket would work well when you have Fromm in there. Fromm to me also is a good tight end thrower. So if you use the actual 12 personnel and throw the ball to the tight end, I think you'll see Fromm put some really good balls out there. I think he throws receiver friendly balls and good placement balls. So again, when you're watching Fromm work the pocket, throw the ball, work and climb in the pocket, hitch up, he does things that actually help the offensive line and he's more mobile. So therefore he can get away from some of the rush and leakage that comes his way. I'm not going to say this is a golden boy. He's not the solving problem. Don't get me wrong. Is he, is he Tanner? Was it Mishu who went off for the Eagles today? Probably not, folks. Okay. And Mishu got there at the end of training camp. So he's known the playbook. That's why he had such a stellar game for the Eagles today. But again, I like Fromm more than Glennon. And Glennon, to me, his footwork today was atrocious. All the balls were high. If you watched his throws, they were all high. The receivers had to work for catches. They were behind him. They weren't just targeted right at the chest or, on the shoulder pads. These receivers had to work for every catch because Glennon's footwork is just awful. And his ability to get the ball out isn't quick because he's so tall and he's got such a long lever. It causes the timing to be, you have to be more open than you usually would have to be because it takes him longer to release the football. And that's always been his issue. Like if you could ever, get that, he's a smart quarterback for the most part. Today he threw into double coverage too often. I think he did it 3 or 4 times. He threw into double coverage. And I was just holding my head like, why are you throwing where there's 2? Because on the backside or underneath, there was a check down or across the formation, there was a single coverage. and Glennon wasn't seeing it at all. But then Freddie Kitchens wasn't picking up on the problem and calling different plays. He kept calling similar plays, and we're seeing Glennon struggle to read the too high safety look. So again, in play calling situations, which Chris Palmer taught me, I didn't know this till I worked with Chris. When you see your player struggling, your quarterback, your running back, whatever, it's up to you as a play caller to now call plays where it's going to be easier for them to figure it out, or it's different. So now they'll see it a little different, right? But I didn't see that today. I saw Freddie trying to do what Freddie does. And, and again, nothing built on, here's the problem again. I know everybody's going to be like, stop begging on Freddie, but nothing builds on top of the next play with Freddie. Like, you don't run an outside zone and then figure, I'm going to see how they react to this for the play action to boot back the backside the other way. You just run an outside zone because you think it will work. And then, 3 plays later, you run another one because you think it'll work. And it's not working, Freddie. You don't throw you don't throw a pass to see if they're going to cover it with 4 verts with 3-by-1 formation and see if they're going to cover, that with quarters, or, are they going to run a 2-man or a Tampa 2 against it? No, he just throws something because he thinks it's going to work. And when you're a really good play caller, it's a rhythm thing, and it's a chess match. You might give up a pawn just to figure out how to jeopardize their rook or to jeopardize their castle or something, and that takes a different level of intelligence to do. And, I thought Glennon struggled a lot today in throwing the ball, but then he threw 44 times. When you got Saquon and Booker, where you can run the ball, play field position, your defense played well today,
Yeah, you're good point, because there didn't seem to be a rhyme or reason on offense. And, it doesn't matter. It seems, Jason, if it's Freddie, if it's Daniel, if it's Glennon, these problems keep popping up. And, I don't know how much of that's on Joe as the head coach, but again, we saw more issues with time management, with timeouts, the use of the timeouts, some aggressiveness. There was a 4th and 2. I thought, I'm sitting there saying
for that. Yeah.
I'm sitting there saying I'd go for it. And it was like, well, by not going for it, you're basically saying, I don't trust my offense to pick up the 2 yards, so I don't know, man.
And then later in the game, he went for a 4th and 2 and they picked it up. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's just, that's what we talked about this, was it last week with Joe? And same thing again, where's the aggressiveness? You have 4 wins. Like, throw caution to the wind, screw it. Like, every 4th down, just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got to lose, Bobby?
Yeah, seriously.
It's a 4th down, screw it, we're going for it. Yeah.
I don't
Unless
know.
it's like 4th and 20, go for it.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I didn't get that. But before we move off of the offense, Joe did say he saw some things he liked. And I know Twitter.
He's protecting his friend.
What's that?
Of course he did. He's protecting his friend Freddie.
Well, I was going to say Twitter went ballistic. They're like, what game was he watching? And he explained it in his post-game presser, which for those of you who are listening to the show, obviously, check out I did a video for this on Giants Country on an article. You can kind of see what it's on the front page. You can see or hear what he had to say. But did you see anything that you liked in the offensive performance? I mean, was there any bright spot per se?
Yeah, like I said, there's about a half dozen plays that I liked. I don't know how many they ran, 60 plays or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, there's about a half dozen of them I liked. They stretched the field and they did a vertical concepts, which I think are great. Glennon missed the throws. And again, if Glennon hit those throws, Freddie might have came back to those plays. Okay. But I like that style. Like, one play, John Ross was wide open, and he missed the throw. Another play, I think it was Galladay, was wide open across the middle. But he threw it. Glennon didn't set his feet to throw, and it was short, and the linebacker almost picked it off. And I know on TV, the commentators were like, oh, you got to work back to the ball. And I'm like, no, the quarterback severely underthrew that ball. Like Galladay was wide ass open down the field in the middle. I mean, if he would have thrown it in the right spot, that was going to be a big gain. And he just missed it. And a lot of his throws, if not all, most of his throws, were just high and outside. And these receivers, even that, was it that fourth down that they threw to Rudolph? I mean, Rudolph was open. He made the cut. He was fine. And, the ball was so far overthrown and high. I mean, Mr. Incredible couldn't have freaking got that ball. So, the execution is very poor, whether it's blocking offensive line, whether it's, the throws, whatever, it's just the execution is poor. The play calling isn't aggressive enough. The commitment to the run is just not there.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, they ran the ball 8 times in the first half. And you have Barkley and Booker. Like you have a two-headed monster and you ran it 8 times. Like that's not even like you got to understand running backs need to get in a groove. Like Barkley should have touched the ball 12 times in the first half running, not passing, running. And then Booker should have touched it maybe 4 times. Like you really should have 16 runs in the first half and then mix your throws in from there. Unlike, again, this is a team, Miami, that doesn't have a stellar run defense. Okay. So unlike when we lined up against the Pats or the Buccaneers, and I said, spread them out and throw because they're on their 6th and 7th corner. This time, knowing the personnel across from you is the Miami Dolphins. They don't have a stellar run defense. So line up and just maul them, and wear them down. Get those defenders tired in the first half, especially when, again, you don't have your full accoutrement of receivers. Just line up and run the ball.
Yeah. All right, David, let's talk about the defense. The back end of the defense, missing Adoree Jackson. They had some problems back there. Looked like they had some communication breakdowns. Tua threw 41 times, completed 30, 244 yards, two sacks, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Jalen Waddle, as we probably could have guessed, the leading receiver, 9 catches out of 11 targets, 90 yards along with 25. What did you see going on in the back end of the Giants defense? I mean, at times, was it me or did it look like in the beginning they were playing off a little bit, probably more so than what we've seen the last few weeks?
Well, last week, I loved the defense, as I came on here and said. They rolled up the coverage. They played at the line. They got after them. It was great, right? This week, I didn't understand. They backed off. There were times they rolled it up, which I was like, cool, let's keep that up. And I thought they did really well when they rolled it up. But when they start, to me, they played too much zone today. I think they worried about Waddle's ability to lose Bradbury because Waddle is that quick style receiver that Bradbury does struggle with. Okay. And they were trying to bracket Waddle and it wasn't working. So I think that kind of threw them out of their rhythm a little bit. And then Gesicki, he's just a big receiver. I mean, he's a wuss when it comes to blocking, but he's just a big receiver that the Giants, I don't think, really had an answer for. So he was targeted, I think, 11 times, caught 7 balls. And then Parker made a couple really good catches at the end of the game. That one catch against Bradbury on the sideline, that back shoulder catch Parker made was just incredible. Like, as a personnel guy, I'm like, ooh, yeah, that's not supposed to happen. Like, Bradbury had good coverage, and a big man like Parker to make that kind of adjustment back was like, woo, that was impressive. That all being said, again, I like press coverage. I think if you get your hands on Waddle and disrupt him, though he does have really good speed, you can bracket over the top and play physical at the line of scrimmage. That's how I would have liked them to approach him. And then with Gesicki and Parker, when they were on the same side, just play 3-on-2. So you got those guys. And then if Wilson, force Wilson or forward to beat you, basically, but take Gesicki and Waddle out of the game with some physical at the lines of scrimmage type play, and then put the safeties over top of those two. Go from there, And again, if Wilson's going to beat you, Wilson's going to beat you. But I saw Wilson pull double coverage a couple times today, and I'm like, man, all that is saying is that in this spot, whoever's playing this spot gets the double coverage. And that's a mistake when you're playing this kind of team that doesn't have a whole lot of talent. It's really Waddle and Gesicki. I mean, Parker's just coming back, and he made a couple great catches today. But, making those guys beat you is better than Waddle, like you said, having 9 catches for 90 yards and Gesicki having another 7 catches for 46 yards. I mean, that's 136 yards of his 244. So.
All right, Giant fans, we have more coming up on today's Locked On Giants podcast. But first, did you know Built Bar is going all out to make this holiday season the most delicious time of year with a winter wonderland of a deal featuring new amazing flavors such as the Built Crave bars and their amazing puffs and ruby chocolate and lemon dip cheesecake. These and Built's other amazing flavors are available right now. And now for a limited time, when you use our promo code LOCKED15, you can save 15% off your first order at BuiltBar.com. That's right. Customize your box any way you want with Built Crave, traditional Built bars, puffs, and save 15% off with the code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED 15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. All right, Giant fans, we have more coming up on today's Locked On Giants podcast. But first, it's the most wonderful time of the year as college football gears up for the playoffs and the bowl season. NFL playoff race starts to take shape. The NBA and NHL continue to heat up. And no matter what sport you like, BetOnline has you covered all holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile website at betonline.ag to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with the promo code Locked On. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers they have to offer. Visit BetOnline today and get your 50% welcome bonus with the code Locked On. From a big picture, the Giants are not coming back to New Jersey after this game. They're going out to Tucson, Arizona, where they're going to spend the week. Okay, before they go on to LA to play the Chargers. Can that help them, you think, given how they've been up, down, up, down? I mean, what can that do for them? And, and then I'll ask you about the coaching staff after you answer that one. But, the players and the coaches feel that, that this can benefit them, because they're going to get away, they're going to have bonding time. And I'm like, how can you bond when you don't know who's going to be in the game, who's not going to be in the game? I mean, what's the advantage here?
You cut out some of the distractions from home. Daddies don't have daddy duty. You don't have to go home and help with homework and bath time and bed stories and stuff, because you can kind of, it's almost like training camp environment. You can spend a little extra time on film rooms, spend a little extra time with your teammates, talking through some plays, talking through some stuff with coaches, just walking around, grabbing dinner with them and eating with them and stuff, because you're locked in the hotel and everything's going to be done there. And with the new rules with COVID and stuff, it's not like they're going to be out and about, tearing up the town in Tucson. So, and plus there's not a lot to do in Tucson. If they would have came up here to Tempe or to Arizona, up in Phoenix, maybe a little bit more distractions. But I again, it can work. It can't work. This team, we haven't seen it work, anything work. So, I'm not going to say next week we're going to see a whole different team. I mean, if they can't stay dedicated to the run and they're going to be down to Fromm at quarterback, we don't know if Galladay is going to be back, and if Shepard's not back and Tony's not back, those injuries on offense are going to be very hard to come back from. And what we're seeing in the defense, the front played well again today. I thought the front played well. I mean, they held the running down, especially in the first half. I mean, they didn't have a lot of yards running the ball, the Dolphins. So, I mean, altogether, the two running backs only had 67 yards rushing. So that's pretty good for the Giants defense. Typically, Giants defense gives up a lot more than that. You know, they didn't give up a rushing touchdown today. So, you know, it's the back end on the two touchdown passes were broken coverages. You know, people got confused. Bradbury on the Ford one got confused, and I can't remember who the safety was that got confused on the Gesicki touchdown, but
might have been McKinney, I think.
I think you're right. I think it was McKinney. So again, it's just miscommunication. But again, if you look at what the coaches called and how it was supposed to be played, you had the right call on. Like the coaches had the right call on for those two touchdowns. Bradbury just had to carry his zone to the sideline and not worry about that curl route underneath, which was clearly Ford was getting passed off. So that was Bradbury had to sit outside zone and go make that play. And McKinney had to come over the top faster to get to Gesicki. And again, you see it's Gesicki, you should be cheating that way anyways. You know, so but the defensive calls on those two plays, when you look at the concepts, they were the right calls. They just didn't get played right. The execution was poor. Getting away, again, you can clean up some of that, but there has to be a want to. And what I'm not seeing with this team is a want to win. It's not there's no want to.
Interesting.
And it's disheartening for me to say that as a guy who spent 2 years there, who loves that franchise. I love the Maras. I love Dave Gettleman. You know how I feel about this whole franchise. But the want to win isn't there.
Are you suggesting that they're mailing it in at this point? I mean, what do you mean when you say the want to win isn't there?
I don't see fire in the bellies of everybody on the field. You know, like I said, the defensive front's got pride. The defensive front has pride. They are doing their dang best. They're putting pressure on the quarterback. They're having fun with each other. The defensive secondary, we see week in and week out, lack of run lane integrity. They're not coming up, filling the outside run lanes and making sure the outside runs are shut down. We're seeing confusion. You know, I remember when I was there, we had players that would, you know, host meetings at their house on Thursday nights to make sure everything was cleaned up. All the corrections from the coaches were taken care of. So Friday and Saturday practice went super clean, no mistakes, nothing. I don't hear about that. You know, when I talk to my friends over there, I don't hear how players are taking responsibility and making sure they're meeting with their teammates on Thursday nights and cleaning things up. I don't hear how people are, you know, being leaders over there. You know, like I said, the defensive front, something's going on there because those guys are playing with pride. But with all the offensive line mistakes, all the secondary mistakes, who's stepping up and saying, hey, boys, pasta feed my house Thursday night, we're cleaning this up on our own.
Interesting.
Okay. And then you talk about special teams. I don't see a lot of special team demons making a ton of plays. I don't see returners breaking stuff. I don't see crazy blocks. I don't see people just flying around the field trying to make something happen on special teams either. So Graham Gano is the best offensive weapon they have, and he shouldn't be with everybody they have on offense. So, you know, for me, I'm a fiery, hot-blooded Italian man. And I just don't see that fire in the belly of these guys. And honestly, I see frustration from Barkley. I see frustration from Galladay. I see frustration from a lot of the offensive skill position players, whether it's a poor throw and they just get frustrated instead of saying, come on, we can do this. We can do this. Let's work through it. Or it's the play calling that's frustrating them. I see frustration there. And I see some of the frustration in the secondary on the offense. When the offense isn't performing, isn't getting yardage, isn't doing these, I see some guys in the secondary, their head drops. They go, okay, here we go. And you see the body language on the sidelines, and you're just like, man, that's not the body language of somebody who's ready to go win.
Interesting. So, with that said, and this will be my final question to you, what do you do with the coaching staff after this year? I mean, John Mara, when they initially hired Joe Judge, said something to the effect of, I know I've got to be a little bit more patient, especially after getting rid of McAdoo after 2 years, getting rid of Sharmer after 2 years. This is Judge's second year. Do you stick with him on the basis that he's still young and learning, even though you've got a rebuild basically going on here? Or do you rethink what you're doing here and go with somebody who maybe has a little bit more experience, particularly with a rebuild?
I don't see a rebuild. I don't see a rebuild. I see an offensive line that needs to block with 6 and not 5. Knock that crap off. Keep the damn back in. Keep a tight end in. Block with 6. Okay? If they would just do that, this offense would be a lot better. And you can't tell me, and I challenge any one of your listeners who wants to debate me on this. We will go live on your show and we will debate this. You line it up. I will be there. We will debate this. If they want to debate me, let them debate me on this point right here. You cannot tell me that if you have Galladay, Tony, Ingram in a pass route, those 3 guys can't win against an NFL secondary. You can run 3 and 4 man routes. Okay? If you are smart enough to devise the plan, you can run and win with 3 and 4 man routes, protecting your quarterback and getting people open. You have the personnel at the skill positions on offense to make it happen. You can always keep 6 in and block. You can. And if you think that you can't run 2x2s and win, Peyton Manning did it all the time. All the time. He would run 2x2, 3x1s, but they always had an extra blocker in to make sure he had a clean pocket and he was throwing with his feet clean. Why? Because he had the arm talent to make incredible throws when he could step up and make throws. So with this talent on the offense, when it's healthy, blocking without 6 to make sure these quarterbacks can stay healthy and stay upright and make throws is ridiculous not to do. So I don't think it's a rebuild. I think the front's playing really well in the last 3 weeks. Okay. Prior to that, they had certain players that were playing really well, but in the last 3 weeks, I think the front was playing really well.
Defensive or offense?
Defensive front. I think the young linebacker was at Crowder is playing really well. Roche's playing. He's coming into his own. You got Ojulari who's coming into his own. Williams and, like I said, Danny Shelton. All those guys are playing. Alexander, they're playing really well the last 3 weeks. Turn the tape on, run it. That front's playing really well. The secondary, they're confused. There's no leadership, in my opinion. You have to get those guys on board. If you get them on board and figured out, that front will be in the backfield more often than not. Just give them a little bit more time. I think this is a build the offensive line, and you'll have something here. This is a build the offensive line, and you'll have something. Now, with that being said, I don't see the leadership on the coaching staff that I saw at the end of last year. The last 6 games of the Giants last year, I was so excited and fired up for this team this year. And if you don't believe me, go listen to Patricia's early stuff from training camp. I was singing their praises. I was excited about this year for the New York Giants. I was all over it. Okay. But now watching it for 12 games or whatever they've played, I'm not excited. I don't think that they've had a really good coaching year. I don't think Joe Judge is, honestly put his coaches in a room and turned over the table on him, as I would say, as an Italian would say. Flip the table on him and just say, what you're doing, boys, isn't good enough. And we need to get better and stop calling quarterback runs, because now I got a quarterback with a neck issue. Like, quarterback designed runs need to be out of the playbook. Like 100% out of the playbook. Off the what do you call it? The wristband. No more quarterback runs.
I'm
I mean,
with you on that one.
I've been saying it. Listen to all the podcasts that we do. I've been
saying it longer than you have, that I get nervous when we have quarterbacks runs in there, especially with a quarterback who doesn't know how to slide or doesn't want to slide.
Right. So for me, if I'm John Mara, I'm Mr. Tisch, I'm Chris Mara. I'm in the building. I'm listening. I'm paying, again, I'm a aggressive and sometimes impulsive individual. I know that about myself, and the people that work with me know that about me. Okay. But if I'm John Mara, I go sit in the coach's room. I'm going to come down and listen to your coaching meeting, coach. I'm going to come down and just listen. I'm going to be at practice today, coach. Can I stand next to you? I'm going to put my ass right next to him, and I'm going to turn that heat up so hot. And if he doesn't start boiling and he don't start making pasta, then he's out. Because I got 5 games to go to figure out if you're my coach next year. And for 5 weeks, everything you do, I'm going to be right next to you.
Wow.
You smile, I'm holding your cheeks.
Oh my gosh.
But that's me.
Yeah.
That's me. That's not John. John's not like me, okay?
Yeah.
But that's me. I want to know if this chef can cook the groceries or if it's a problem with the grocery shopper. Okay? I hear all the rumors as you brought it up last week about Dave retiring after this year and everything. And we talked about if you bring in somebody close to Joe, I don't. But I think if in the last 5 weeks you don't see better coaching and more fire up these players' butts and results from it, then that means the players aren't honoring and listening and hearing him. If you got a locker room that's tone deaf on your coach after 2 years, it's not going to get better in year 3. Because a lot of these same players are going to be back next year. You can't turn over your roster by, 60% in a year. So most of these guys are going to be back. Over 50, 55, 60% of them are going to be back. So if you got those guys tone deaf to them already, it's not going to be a good thing next year.
Wow. Sounds like, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some changes. I mean, like I said, I still say Dave Gettleman and the Giants part ways. I would not be stunned if Joe gets a pass, but there are changes on that staff. Is Freddie Kitchens going to be the guy? I don't know, but there's going to be roster turnover because, the salary cap alone is going to force them to get rid of some of those over bloated contracts. So yeah, I think these next, we just completed week 13. So what do we got? We've got 5 more weeks to go. Going to tell us a lot. So hopefully, I keep saying this, hopefully they end on a strong note, but they just can't stack wins together. It's just when you think, okay, they're making steps, it's like 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. And it's frustrating that, you never know what you're going to get with this team, except, you're not getting consistency. That's the one thing you're not getting. So I don't know, man.
Consistent success is often laid. The bricks are laid with consistent messaging, right? And I don't think there's consistent messaging in that building. So, for me, it's hard for me to put this on personnel because I like a lot of what this team's done. I just don't like that offensive line. I've said it for weeks. I think they have playmakers, even with the injuries. You have Ingram, you got Rudolph, You had Galloway for a while today. You still have Slayton. You have John Ross. Like, you have playmakers there. Your lack of commitment to the run game when Saquon Barkley is like supposed to be your bell cow and he's healthy, like that to me is not a consistent message. Like, you guys doing Campbell Soup commercials for you, he should be running the football 20 times. It should be win and die by him. What can we do to make Saquon the bell cow? You're paying him like it, so why isn't he not? And to me, that's an issue. Okay. Second issue is you went out and spent money on Rudolph, and he's only getting targeted 3-4 times a game, or even someone, Jason was there only like 2 times a game. Why? That's not, you went and paid for him. Make him work for you. You kept Ingram around. I'm sure there's people that would have traded for him for something. And now he got targeted 5 times today and caught 4 balls. He caught made a couple of good catches, but again, target him more. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, consistent messaging is making the people that you're paying and you're going, you're saying are your bell cows. Well, let's see it. Let's do it. Put the rock in Saquon's hand 20 times this next week, running the ball, and let's see what happens. Let's see.
Can't get any worse, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. But again, like, for me, I'm aggressive. I want, but I say it all the time, and I've said it probably a dozen times this show that I'm aggressive, but I don't believe in passive personalities winning in sports. I just don't. If you're gonna, you gotta air it out. You gotta just let it go. You gotta and when you only have 4 wins, don't put trick plays into the playbook. That's not what I'm saying. But put good football plays in and just run those plays better than the team across from you. Like, I don't care if you put 24 plays in a playbook. That's it. These are the 24 plays we're running. Cool. Let's run these 24 plays better than anybody can defend them. Let's go.
Easier said than done, though. So, oh, goodness. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us on today's show, Giant fans. Thank you so much for tuning in. David, always a great show with you. I mean, dropping knowledge left and right. It's awesome for me and hopefully for everybody else who's tuning in. Giant fans, tomorrow we will do a Twitter Tuesday. Please get your questions in as soon as possible. For those who didn't check out the bulletin board, my mom did pass away on Friday, so I'm going to be kind of limited Tuesday and Wednesday, but I do want to get a show out to you on Tuesday. I may not be able to get a show out to you for Wednesday. I will try, but if I don't, know that it's because I'm tied up with putting my mom to rest. So, folks, thank you as always for making the Locked On Giants Locked On Giants podcast, your first listen or watch of the day. We'll be back with you again tomorrow. Like I said, Twitter Tuesday, get those questions in. So for David Turner, I am Patricia Traina. Have a good one.